Okay, so now we've sharpened up our plane. We've got our plane iron set back into the body of this thing. We're ready to start actually using this thing, right? How many of you have ever used one of these before and been very frustrated trying to get it set up working properly? Yeah, we've all been there, honestly. Part of the reason I buy really nice planes for you guys to use is that they are so much easier to feel all the adjustments and stuff and get these things dialed in to a point where they actually work effectively. What we're going to do here is, first of all, and for probably 99% of what we're going to be doing, the whole goal here with this thing is to take off like kind of as thin a shaving as absolutely possible. You should almost be able to see through the shaving that you make. Okay, we're going to start with the blade backed fully out so that this thing is not cutting at all. So we're going to take this adjuster on the back here and we're going to crank it out, and probably only a few turns. It depends on where the adjustment was when you first started, but we're just going to take this piece of pine here and we're just going to make a couple swipes, and you can clearly see that we're not cutting any wood here. Okay, so now I'm going to adjust this back in just a tiny little bit at a time. And remember, we're doing all these adjustments with the lever cap snug down, right? Which is part of the reason why we don't want to crank the snot out of this thing, because we should have a nice fluid adjustment there. Okay, you can see I'm getting a little bit of dust on there, so I'm almost there. Like another little tiny bit, and I'm peeling off. So that's pretty fine. It's so fine actually that our shaving isn't really sticking together. So we can probably go just a little thicker than that. So I'm only advancing this adjustment just a hair of a turn. There we go. That's what we're looking for. Something that looks about like that. A nice, even, wide shaving. And actually I'm noticing that it's a little bit thicker on one side than the other. So I'm just going to take my fingers here and just move this ever so slightly in the direction that it was heavy. Okay, and that's going to shift the blade the other way. That's a little bit better. Okay, so let's say, I want to stick to you. Let's say that we actually had too much here. That's a real thick shaving. I mean, that's okay if you want to really take off a lot of material. But let's say for our situation, we're taking way too much off and we want to back it out. We can do that. So we're going to back it out further than what we need. Right? The reason for this is that there's actually this much movement, if you can see in the film there's this much movement where there's no movement of the blade happening at all. It's called backlash. That's just because the threads on the adjuster can't physically be tight enough to have a perfectly positive engagement. Right? So if we leave the backlash in the wrong position and we get it adjusted perfectly, the blade can actually move and take up that backlash, and we don't want that. So our last and final adjustment always has to be going with the blade advancing. Okay, so we're going to back the blade out further than what we know we want. Okay, so I'm back to cutting almost nothing, and then take up that backlash and advance it just a hair going inward. Okay, now I'm back to pretty much to where I want to be. Okay, so my last adjustment is always in the inward direction. Now we're getting nice smooth shavings coming off there. Just a little quick thing technique-wise. If we're dressing an edge like this, I want to make sure that the front sole of my plane, this is the sole of the plane, I want to make sure that the front part here is kind of really nice and square and referenced on my board, and that I'm actually holding it tightly in this little finger groove, and that I'm taking a nice smooth full pull. Alright? Now if you're trying to blend, say, your front rails, you don't have to always do a full pull. All right. If you're trying to get one edge down, the other edge is flush, you can start here and pull off, or push a little bit sideways. Start a little bit further along, and then gradually get shorter strokes, and you'll kind of have that blending effect. Okay. And that's kind of the idea there. That's about it. I can't help you get better at doing this. It's just practice. All right, so if you guys have a little bit of spare time, you're waiting for a machine or whatever, grab a hand plane off the tool board, take it apart, sharpen it up, and set it up. Get a piece of pine, because it feels really good when you use pine. It helps you feel like a rock star, because it just, I don't know, it's easy to plane. So, so that's it. Questions? Okay.